A 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, hello.
Rock Talk, back on the dial, traveling at a speed at 33 1/3 RPMs.
Okay.
Where the music will bring you to your new preferred vinyl destination.
Okay.
I'm your host, Ferris Kennedy,
Yes.
in the Jody Sadler studio, and with me in the booth, a man who's friends with Marv Albert, the former announcer of the Madison Square Gardens.
Isn't he the guy that wore the toupee all the time?
It looked like a toupee.
I think it wasn't. Something funny. I think they tried to shoot it. My name's Dr. Ian Clarke.
And today,
Yes?
we are talking about a band that is so true and dear to Ian's heart.
It's true. I mean, I'm talking about the Fab Four today. I figure about 99% of the Earth's inhabitants have heard about the Beatles, and most people know about their songs and the effect they had on popular culture. Perhaps not as many people know about what happened to the Beatles after the Beatles broke up. And so Mr. Kennedy and I are going to investigate the post-Beatles, post-Beatles. We're handling 2 mop tops apiece, so why don't I begin with the drummer, Richard Starkey. He turned 84 years old, by the way, this July.
God bless him.
Sure thing. A little while back on this podcast, we did an episode called Ringo Starr, Destiny's Child, because that's the way I think of him when you look at the circumstances in which he grew up, the economic, the illnesses he had, the elements that would keep many people down, but he just soared, never a victim. I've seen where he was raised. I've been to his house in Liverpool. It's kind of rough. I don't care what you think of him as a drummer, is he mediocre, good, great. It doesn't matter, because in the end there is something about Ringo Starr. Believe me, it often remains a mystery to me too, but it's there. Okay, let's take a look at Ringo post-Beatles. Now, the members of the Beatles had all launched separate careers before the band officially broke up in 1970. Also, Starr appeared in films and television, which I will speak about in a while. His first 2 solo albums, Sentimental Journey, consisted of standards from the 30s and 40s, and Beaucoup of Blues, a collection of country music, were both released in 1970. I've heard them. They're pretty good. They were surprising, I'll put it that way. In 1971, he began his run as the first solo Beatle to score 7 consecutive top 10 singles, starting with the Don't Come Easy. His second hit, Back Off Boogaloo, followed in 1972, which was co-written with T-Rex frontman Mark Bolan. I didn't know that until I did research. Mark Bolan co-wrote that song, and it does sound a little T-Rex-ish. Ringo released his eponymous hit album in 1973, and it's a good album. It yielded 3 top 10 singles, including number 1 Photograph, You're 16. It's a really strong album. The album Ringo also marked the first time since the Beatles' breakup that all 4 band members participated in the same project, though not at the same time, of course. Between 1974 and 78, Ringo released such hits as the top 10 singles, Only You, it's a remake, the No No Song, the album, great album, Goodnight Vienna from 74, Blast from the Past, 75, Rotogravures from 76, which I wore out, I played it so much. It's an amazing album. Ringo the Fourth, 77, and Bad Boy from 78. In 81, he recorded Stop and Smell the Roses, his most critically acclaimed record since Ringo, followed 2 years later by Old Wave, it's a great name, for which he teamed up with producer Joe Walsh. A hits collection, Starstruck, the Best of Ringo Starr Volume 2, was released in 89. Same year, he assembled his first all-star band, and he found consistent success as a live act. I cannot stress how important the all-star band came to be for what I'll call Ringo's overall health. He kind of laid off the booze. That gave him a good reason to go to bed in the morning. Quote, I got asked if I'd be interested in putting a band together, he said. I had been thinking the same thing, and so I went through my phone book, rang a few friends up, and asked them if they would like to have some fun in the summer. Now, Ringo's friends included Joe Walsh, Clarence Clemens, Nels Lofgren, Rick Danko, Levon Helm, Dr. John, Billy Preston, Jim Keltner. Pretty good phone book he had. The tour met with great success, yielding his first live album, Ringo and his All-Star Band, in 1990. As I go through this, he put out a lot of albums under the All-Star imprimatur, so to speak. It was a little kind of skewed, not like a McCartney who just had original albums. Ringo did a lot of live stuff with the All-Stars. In 92, he released Time Takes Time, and he put together a second All-Star band with Zach Starkey, his son, the great Burton Cummings, Dave Edmunds, Todd Rundgren, Timothy B. Schmidt, Joe Walsh, and it's the first time Ringo had toured Europe since his Beatles days. The band's second incarnation yielded a new concert album, Ringo Starr and his All-Star Band Live on Montreux. So I'm not going to go through every album that he released with the All-Star Band, but what's interesting for me is who participated. People like John Entwistle, Mark Farner, Billy Preston, Randy Bachman, Peter Frampton, Jack Bruce, Gary Brooker, Mark Rivera. These are great musicians, and Ringo took them to Russia in some cases. He was the first former Beatle to ever play Russia. In 98, he brought an album out called Vertical Man, and he recorded it with I call it a group called the Roundheads. In 99, he brought out the fifth edition of the All-Star Band, and it was a Christmas album. The sixth edition in 2000 had Jack Bruce on it, Eric Carmen, Dave Edmunds, Simon Kirke, the drummer from Bad Company, great drummer. And he put the seventh band together, included Sheila E. from Prince's band, Greg Lake, Roger Hodgson from Supertramp, Ian Hunter, Mott the Hoople, Howard Jones. These are amazing musicians, and maybe they had some downtime, I don't know. 2003, the Roundheads launched the release of Ringo Rama. At that time, he had the group's, I guess the eighth incarnation of the group, rather, and he put out another live album. Around the same time, Genesis Publications printed a limited edition run of Ringo's book called Postcards from the Boys. They were postcards sent to him from the three other Beatles, and there'd be little funny sketches on them, etc. When you're a Beatle, you can get away with these kind of things. These guys are so famous, and that became a best-selling book for him. The album Photograph, the very best of Ringo Starr, had 20 tracks on it, produced between 1970 and 2005. It came out at that time, too. 2008, he released Liverpool 8. I remember that. It was his first new album on Capitol Records since 1974, Goodnight Vienna. He co-wrote 12 of the tracks. That summer, he had the 10th incarnation of the All-Star Band. Edgar Winter, Gary Wright, there's some new names on it, Billy Squire. Then he brought out another album called Why Not? He produced it, the first one he produced himself. That came out in 2010. Paul McCartney helped him out. Ben Harper helped him out. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he launched his 11th All-Star Band. New names included Rick Derringer, great players to make a great band. The LP Ringo 2012 came out with 9 tracks on it. And he had new players, new names, Steve Lukather, right? Toto, Greg Raleigh, keyboards for Journey, Todd Rundgren again. 2013, he published something called Photograph, never before seen photographs. Ringo was the Beatles photographer, almost in-house photographer. Pretty good photographer. He had some great equipment. 2014, Simon & Schuster published Octopus's Garden. This guy can do no wrong. And of course, it was based on the song. 2014, on his birthday in July, this is interesting. He celebrated his birthday with his traditional Peace and Love event at Capitol Records in LA. I didn't know it was an event. This time joined by John Varvatos, who revealed Ringo would be the model for his 2014 fall fashion advertising campaign. Okay, coupled with a social media initiative, hashtag Peace Rocks, that raised funds and awareness for the David Lynch Foundation via the Ringo Starr Peace and Love Fund. Ringo said at the time, "I've waited a long time to become a male model, and what a great way to do it, all for a good cause." Again, Destiny's Child or what? In 2015, Ringo released Postcards from Paradise, featuring 11 original tracks. 2015, again, he was inducted by Paul McCartney into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. Give Me More Love came out in 2017, What's My Name in 2019, and finally, Look Up, 2025. So between 1970 and 2015, Ringo released 18 albums. He's acted in over 15 films, received an Academy Award, nominated for an Emmy, and he's published 3 books. Okay, earlier on I said I got to get around to films and television that he's done. He did Candy, which is a terrible movie from '68. It's just with Marlon Brando. Oh, it's horrible. Magic Christian with Peter Sellers, '69 is terrible. 200 Motels from '71. It's a Frank Zappa movie. That'll Be the Day from '73. That's a David Essex film. It's really, really good. Check it out. 1973, Son of Dracula. That's with Harry Nilsson. Unwatchable. Listomania. It's a Roger Daltrey. It was a Ken Russell film. Sextet from '78. Brutal. Caveman from '81. Maybe Ringo should lay off on the audio-visual a bit. Give my regards to Broad Street, '84, that horrible Paul McCartney movie. And then it's something called Water from '85, the Powerpuff Girls from 2014. For TV, he did '71, something called The Point. That was an animation. I think there was a Harry Nilsson song. I'm going to skim through this. Alice in Wonderland from '85. He did a bunch of Thomas the Tank Engine and narrations from '84 to '86.
That makes a lot of sense now.
I know. Shining Time Station. Oh no, said Thomas. I've swallowed some amphetamines. The Simpsons from '91. Shelley Duvall's Bedtime Story from '92. Sabrina the Teenage Witch from '96. And there you have it, folks. That's what the Beatles drummer has been up to since 1970. He has been a very busy man. You got to remember, Ringo Starr was never much of a singer, never much of a composer. It seems to me his natural abilities were acting and light comedy roles, and of course, keeping a rock-steady drum beat. What I didn't discuss is his natural charm. More than anything, really, I should say, that energizes who he is and what he does. Ringo Starr is incredibly likable.
I cannot disagree with that because everyone likes him.
Everyone likes Ringo.
So now we're going to go to Paul McCartney.
Sure.
Is one of the most successful and influential musicians of all time. Even after the breakup of the Beatles, he continued to achieve incredible success as a solo artist, songwriter, and producer, maintaining a constant presence in the British and American charts. Formed Wings in late 1971 with his wife Linda and Moody Blues guitarist Denny Laine, and the group remained active for the next 10 years, racking up a string of hit albums, singles, and tours. Wings disbanded in 1980, but McCartney stayed near to the top of the charts over the next 5 years, thanks to a couple big duets with the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. McCartney revived his solo career in '89, courtesy of that, and as the 21st century rolled on, McCartney continued to take risks, including recording an album of standards from the Great American Songbook and collaborating with rapper Kanye West, proving that there was no area of popular music he couldn't touch.
Oh, please.
I love when this is the best part.
The ego has landed.
Ian has given me the 2 Beatles that he probably, doesn't like the most.
I like him okay.
Like John Lennon and George Harrison, McCartney began exploring creative avenues outside of the Beatles during the late 60s. But where his bandmates released their own experimental records, McCartney confined himself to writing and producing for other artists, with the exception of his 1966 soundtrack to The Family Way.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. When Wings was formed, it was intended to be a full-fledged recording and touring band. former Moody Blues guitarist Denny Lane, drummer Denny Sewell, and former Grease Band guitarist Henry McCulloch. In 1972, they became the group's other members, and Wings released their first album, Wildlife, in December 71. Ian, was it any good?
It was okay. It was interesting. I think it has My Love on it.
73, Wings released Band on the Run, and it was McCartney's best reviewed album in his most successful, spending 4 weeks at the top of the U.S. charts.
It is an amazing album.
And it went triple platinum.
Yeah, it is, in my little humble opinion, his best album.
Following the success of Band on the Run, McCartney formed a new version of Wings with guitarist McCulloch and drummer Jeff Britton. Ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay. The new lineup was showcased on the 1974 British single Junior's Farm
Great song.
and the 1975 hit album Venus and Mars.
His last great album, but that's me, of course.
At the Speed of Sound followed in 76, and it was Wings' first record to feature songwriting contributions by other band members. Well, that's nice of Paul to start sharing a little bit.
Everybody was jumping ship, that's why.
Early 1980, McCartney was arrested for marijuana possession at the beginning of a Japanese tour. Why is this relevant? Why not? It's just what happened after the Beatles, right?
Yeah, we're just talking about it, yeah.
He was in prison for 10 days and then released without any charges being pressed. Wings effectively broke up in the wake of McCartney's Japanese bust, although it's official.
Yeah, it gave me a good reason to do it.
The official dissolution was not announced until April 27th, 81, when Denny Lane left the band. Later in 1980, McCartney entered the studio with Beatles producer George Martin to make Tug of War. Released in the spring of 82, Tug of War was received the best reviews of any McCartney record since Band on the Run and spawned the #1 single with Ebony and Ivory with duet Stevie Wonder. That became the biggest American hit. In 1982, McCartney sang on The Girl Is Mine, the first single from Michael Jackson's blockbuster album Thriller. Jackson duetted with McCartney on Say, 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 Don't You Know, the first single from McCartney's 1983 album Pipes of Peace. McCartney co-wrote several songs with Elvis Costello. Poor McCartney. The pair also wrote songs for Costello's Spike, including the hit Veronica. Okay, wasn't that supposed to be his grandmother he wrote it about? Not McCartney's grandmother, but...
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I know the trivia on it.
Yeah. They wrote Veronica, Flowers in the Dirt, which received strong reviews of any McCartney release since Tug of War in 1997. And by the way, he received the knighthood in 1997.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got some here, point form. McCartney's solo career hit songs. Maybe I'm Amazed, Band on the Run, Silly Love Songs, My Love, Live and Let Die. Yeah. Acclaimed albums, McCartney 1970, Ram 1971, Band on the Run 73, Venus and Mars 75, and Wings at the Speed of Sound 76.
Okay, I'm gonna make an overall point right here, ladies and germs. The farther the Beatles got away from the Beatles, the worse their music became. Sorry, it just did. And when we get to George Harrison and John Lennon, it's the proof is in the pudding.
It's just unlistenable. Songwriting and production songs composed for other artists. I Saw Her Standing There. That was actually for Billy J. Kramer. Did you know that?
No, but they shut up. They didn't have the Billy J. Kramer did not have the hit with it. They did.
It's not true. For the foremost.
Yeah, these are all weak. The idea, well, that's weak. Their idea was that they're going to keep the good stuff, right?
World Without Love for Peter and Gordon.
Yeah, there was.
Who the hell is Peter and Gordon?
Well, Peter Asher. Yeah, he was his girlfriend's brother. Believe it or not. Yeah.
All right. Production work. He produced albums for artists like Mary Hopkins, Badfingers, and others.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Helped launch the careers of many young musicians. Well, geez, you want to give me a name?
Yeah, well, who did he lead? Badfinger, I guess?
Yeah, pretty well. Achievements and accolades, awards and honors. He's got 18 Grammy Awards, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice as a Beatle and solo artist, and knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1997. Now, I believe, isn't he supposed to be lorded soon?
I don't know. Why not? I mean,
He's supposed to be.
He can buy, I think, Ireland right now.
Commercial success estimated to have written or co-written over 30 #1 hit singles. ranked as one of the most successful composers and performers of all time.
Right.
And in conclusion, in the decades since the Beatles' breakup, Paul McCartney has continued to cement his status as a musical icon through his solo work, collaborations, and philanthropic endeavors. He has left an indelible mark on the music industry and the world at large. McCartney's unparalleled success and influence solidify his place as one of the greatest musicians of all time. And I'm actually sad to hear that he was like worth $1 billion or something?
Yeah, it's over $1 billion. He's the richest musician in the world.
Because it said Taylor Swift at 1.3.
Oh, no, she got more than, because of the tour.
Yeah, but it's okay. She's going to lose anyways. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Because of her political endorsements. People don't like that.
No, it's not. McCartney's really smart that way.
Yeah, he is. And I'm actually, to be honest, good. I'm glad because I want McCartney to be on top. Forget her.
Yeah, really.
All right, so Ian, who's
Well, I was yapping away about Ringo Starr being charming and nice. And now I'm going to talk about another Beatle, but that maybe wasn't that nice.
Oh, I thought he was a gem.
No, not really.
Norwegian Wood. I love the story behind that.
Oh.
I once had a girl.
Wait, are you playing? Oh, it's you. I thought it was the recording.
No, because you was telling me that song was written. Basically, he just came out and said I cheated on my.
That's what he did. So should I say she had me? Oh, I get it. She's the lady of the night. You're sneaky. Yeah.
Why would you do that in a song? That's just a whole legal confession right then and there.
I don't know, because he's Lennon. Listen, you know, what hasn't been said or written about John Lennon? Well, if you want somewhat of a new take, just a while back on our podcast, we did an episode called The Inevitable Death of John Lennon. You might find that interesting. Why not visit our website at SeriousRockTalk.com.
Clarke, before you continue.
Yes.
There is this video, and you've seen it, of Paul McCartney, and they always say, who's the guy that's always behind Paul McCartney? And there's like conspiracy theory that the guy has the exact same facial structure and cheekbones as John Lennon. I'm going to find that video. I'm going to send it to you. It is so freaky. It is so freaky.
Come on.
Like, yeah, I wish he was still alive. I do,
Yeah, I
but,
mean, this
you know,
is,
but
yeah.
it's so weird. All these things that are coming out right now.
Oh, that's sad.
And I got to stop watching TikTok before
You're
bed.
gonna really, that is just sad. I mean,
That's where I get all my news, by the way.
and that's why you're so informed. Okay, so let's take a look at Lennon's discography. Plastic Ono Band, his first solo album released in 1970 with Yoko Ono. Pound for Pound, I think it's his best album. Again, going back to my belief that the farther you get from the Beatles, the worse the stuff.
Which album, sorry?
It's called Plastic Ono Band, 1970. Next one was called Imagine, was 71. It's an interesting album. I don't think it's a strong album. It's probably his second best. Sometime in New York City from 72. I don't think it's a very good album. I've heard it. I'll get back to a reason why I think that. Mind Games, some 73. It has some nice songs on it.
That's a decent one.
It's okay, but you listen to that's a great song. Yeah, you listen to the album. Walls and Bridges from 74. I would rate it interesting. Rock and Roll from 75. I love this album. I think Phil Spector produced it. It's kind of overblown, but it's fun. And really, that's it for his recording career until Double Fantasy in 1980.
That's it?
That's it. And it was released 2 weeks before he was shot.
5 albums.
So that's just kind of the way it goes. Okay, to find out what happened to John Lennon after he left the Beatles, we have to go back to just before the Beatles ended, because that's when you start to see the bonds weakening. By the way, he recorded a bit more, two or three things. I'll get back to them, but I'm just going for the major.
Is Happy Christmas one of them?
That's a single.
Okay.
And Give Peace a Chance is a single. And the stuff he did with Yoko, God help you, but I'll get to that. That could peel paint.
I was waiting for you to say that.
That could peel paint.
She was horrible voice.
Oh, she went out of her way. Lennon began to withdraw from the Beatles around 68, accelerated by his relationship with Yoko Ono. This dovetailed with the artistic ideas of Ono, avant-gardist 7 years his senior. Lennon was fascinated and then influenced by her terse, somewhat paradoxical directives, such as count all the words in the book instead of reading them. Yeah. Much of the music Lennon recorded from 68, stuff like Year Blues, I'm So Tired on the White Album, through the solo debut of Plastic Ono Band, through his half of the Double Fantasy album, reflects Ono's belief in art without artifice. Ooh. Whether or not they actually avoided artifice, that was one impression they tried to create. So from 68, we have Unfinished Music Number 1, two virgins with Yoko Ono. It is completely unlistenable. It's 40 minutes of Yoko being electrocuted. From 69, we have Unfinished Business Number 2, Life with the Lions. Finally, mercifully, the last one, we have the Wedding Album from November of 69. As for the live albums, there's Live Piece in Toronto. I mean, I have it. It's interesting. It's an artifact. And the posthumous Live in New York City, released in 86. Shave Fish came out in 75. It's really a greatest hits, more or less. They don't call it that. That's what it is. I'm not going to get into all the singles and box sets, most of which were released and reissued and remixed long after his death. I'm much more interested in what he wanted to record and what he wanted to release. Until Double Fantasy, most of the films and recordings Lennon created with Yoko Ono were of, I could say, limited public usefulness. But as I indicated earlier, the Stark Plastic Ono Band album is generally considered a masterpiece, and the more conventional Lennon album that followed, Imagine, is a major work. Like the earlier Give Peace a Chance, Imagine is proof of the political orientation that dominated Lennon's public life with Ono, which came to a head in 72 with the failed political album, as I said before, sometime in New York City. And with the defeat of the Democratic presidential candidate George McGovern, whom Lennon supported by the incumbent President Richard Nixon, Lennon came under a lot of heat. Nixon was personally trying to have him deported for his opposition to the Vietnam War. Now, when he and Ono separated in the fall of 73, he spent more than a year drinking and basically having a good time out in Los Angeles. He made some music out there with Harry Nilsson. He didn't do much. He got in a lot of trouble. When the couple got back together, they soon conceived a son, Sean, born on Lennon's birthday in 1975. Aside from his last album in 1980, that's about it for the music career of John Lennon. A few songs he wrote in the 70s and recorded on a cassette machine were later worked into official Beatle releases by the three remaining Fabs. I have some issues with them. I kind of like them, but are they really Beatles songs? I don't know. Lennon retreated from music and became a reclusive house husband, leaving his business affairs to Ono. The details of this private period are unclear, although it is unlikely that the couple's domestic arrangements were as idyllic as they pretended to be. Nevertheless, as a piece of art, their marriage projected as powerful of an image as their activism had. It ended as fact when Lennon was shot to death by Mark David Chapman in December of 1980, but it continues as part of Lennon's legend, which remains undiminished. So you can see the contrast here between Ringo Starr and John Lennon in terms of their post-Beatle careers. Ringo was and is very physically active. John Lennon was once called the laziest Beatle. Maybe he was. His life was a life of ideas, intellectual, a life of political stances. Ringo just likes to entertain. He likes to have fun. And if you believe Albert Goldman's book about John Lennon, and no matter what people say, Goldman was at one point a respected journalist. In the years following the Beatles' breakup, Lennon became a heroin addict for a while. It's been said that he battled drug addiction really from the late 1960s onward. He would have times when he cleaned up and times when he relapsed. If you look carefully, or not even carefully, at the Get Back documentary, you can tell pretty clearly that something is off with Lennon. He's not the Lennon you were used to. In his book about John Lennon, Albert Goldman stated that Yoko Ono kept Lennon hooked on heroin as a way of controlling him. Now, it's hard to believe anyone could be that evil in that situation, but the thought is that now out there. My feeling is that when you speak about John Lennon, the first thing you have to keep in mind is that he was the founder and the leader of the most successful rock band in world history, and arguably the best. That alone is mind-blowing, and up until 1965-66, he was the real motive force behind the Beatles songs. I think around 66, and certainly with Sgt. Pepper, McCartney's presence can be felt more and more. And I think this is because Lennon, ever the frustrated intellectual, just got bored of everything. Maybe took too many drugs. And when manager Brian Epstein died in 67, McCartney really took over. And no, Yoko didn't break up the Beatles, but she was, in my feeling, an accelerant. So if you're interested in John Lennon's post-Beatles career, take a listen to Plastic Ono Bad in 70, and I think you will hear Lennon at his best.
Interesting. And where's that thing that they slept in Montreal, this hotel, like this sort of
live piece, or was in bed or something? Yeah.
And then the Two Virgins album, they're naked on the cover.
Yeah, they had to issue it in a
bag. Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
He was strange, man. He's a smart musician, but strange individual.
Yeah, I did. The farther he got away, and then he locked himself away for 5 years, claiming he was baking bread. Who knows? McCartney's running around making zillions.
I just like the fact that he said to Yoko, I'm just going to step out and buy a pack of smokes. And he shows up a year and a half later. He's with McCartney, Keith Moon.
I know. Harry Nilsson, Alice Cooper. The guy was partying hard. And Yoko's sitting there counting the money. Who knows?
A year and a half.
I know.
I want that deal.
I'm just going to get some cigarettes.
I'll be right back a year and a half later. Well, so to me, George Harrison's immense musical talents often overshadowed by the Lennon-McCartney songwriting duo during his time with the Beatles. But his solo career after the band's breakup proved he was a true creative force in his own right. Nicknamed the Quiet Beatle at the height of Beatlemania, Harrison did indeed seem somewhat reserved compared to other members of the Fab Four. He favored wry wit to Ringo Starr's clowning and never indulged in either John Lennon's penchant for controversy or Paul McCartney's crowd-pleasing antics. He preferred sly provocations to larger-than-life bravado. Harrison's measured, considered persona was reflected in his music, particularly his clean, composed lead guitar parts, but also in his earliest songs for the Beatles where he didn't seem to waste a line. With the introduction of psychedelics, spirituality, and Indian music in the mid-60s, George's horizons expanded considerably, and he started to come into his own as a musician. 1970, the release of All Things Must Pass, Harrison's landmark triple album showcasing his songwriting prowess, included classics like My Sweet Lord, Isn't It a Pity, and What Is Life. Listen, he didn't have to go 3 albums. He could have done it in 1.
You know what? That's really an interesting insight. I bet you if that had been 1 album, I could have got closer to it.
Yeah.
But 3 was just stunning in the wrong way.
So this anyways demonstrated his ability to craft timeless spirituality, tinged rock pop, the post-Beatle triple album, which effectively is his solo debut. Realistically, I think if the Beatles would have stayed, that would have been another Beatles album. And I think probably Band on the Run could have...
You and I have spoken about that. Yeah, somebody else... This is the great theory, folks, and it's not conspiracy. It's that if they had lasted another, say, 2 years, you have all this great Beatle music. I just mentioned John Lennon's first album. All this would be included, Ringo's first albums, but they didn't.
See, if I could go back in the time, I got a couple of my guys, go down there and I'll say to John, listen... ain't happening, bro. You got to stick around just for another 5 years.
Yeah,
okay?
you guys have... it's not just Abbey Road. You got more stuff coming.
Yeah, you got better stuff coming. So All Things Must Pass and its smash single, My Sweet Lord, cemented Harrison's image as a mystique seeker, a reputation underscored by his 1971 Superstar charity event, the Concert for Bangladesh, and in 1973's Living in the Material World, back-to-back hits that established him as a superstar outside of the Beatles.
Okay. I guess. That's extremely kind.
You like... Quiet Storm from 75 to the 1980s.
You had never heard of it until you did this research. You know. He hadn't heard of it. His wife has never heard of it.
Entered a more introspective, mellow phase with albums like Extra Texture and Somewhere in England.
Oh,
hits like this song and When We Was Fab, which I have the 45.
It is fun, I know.
Okay? Again, it showed his songwriting prowess. Now, Ian and I have discussed it a lot. I've always liked Harrison, and I think he's always been underrated. Ian thinks I'm on crack, but it's okay.
Yeah, I have issues. I just think if he wasn't with the Beatles, you wouldn't really know him. He'd be the 60s curiosity.
Full-fledged comeback in 1987, Jeff Lynne produced Cloud 9.
I know.
thanks to the top singles Got My Mind Set On You,
Which is a cover.
and When We Was Fab.
I know.
Anyway, it became a top 10 hit around the world, and Harrison followed the record quickly with the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys.
Well, by the way, folks, go to our website. We have an episode on them, too. They're confusing to me.
And also, you'll hear probably one of our episodes, I do actually have Cloud 9 as one of the albums of Harrison.
Oh, boy. Like, yeah, I mean, listen, he's an interesting guitarist, and he had maybe 4 or 5 great songs. But come on, he was a Beatle. So,
anyways, well, the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 was basically Harrison's B-side. That's what it was.
it's an interesting way of looking at it.
But see, I got into Harrison because of my father.
Okay.
My father always respected George Harrison.
Yeah.
He thought Lennon was a little out there.
Yeah, pretty far out.
Ringo really wasn't his shtick.
No.
So my dad has always been McCartney and Harrison. So if he always knows why I favor those two more,
Okay, all right.
it's because of my dad.
Sure.
And, but again, you and my dad, you've spoken, and you guys have similar.
Similar, it's close, yeah.
It's almost, your top 4 similar.
Okay.
He's got CCR, you don't have CCR.
I wouldn't, no.
You have the Doors, he doesn't have the Doors.
Oh, there you go.
And you said at the time, when CCR came out, it was too old for you, or
I was too young.
it didn't work for you.
It didn't work for me.
So, the Wilburys turned out to be George's last hurrah, in the words of Ian. Oh, thank God.
Blessed mercy.
After their final album in 1990, Harrison turned toward Beatles Anthology Reunion and then maintained a low profile. George followed All Things Must Pass with something equally grand, benefit concert for the refugees of war-torn Bangladesh, upon the urging of his friend Ravi Shankar. Ian, you know who that is?
Sure do. And in fact, it was really the first. Everyone does it now. Well, a lot of the rock stars do it, but it was the first rock star-driven charity event.
Harrison arranged a star-studded benefit held at MSG, better known as Madison Square Garden, on August 1st, 1971, enlisting his friends Starr, Dylan, Eric Clapton, and Billy Preston to play. It was the first all-star charity show, setting the template for those to follow. Eventually, Harrison began work on his 9th studio album, hiring Jeff Lynne of ELO as co-producer. Lynne brought a lush, glossy sheen to 87's Cloud 9, which I still think is a great album, a sound that was instrumental to the record's success. In the wake of its success, Harrison and Lynne returned to the studio to record B-side with the assistance of Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, and Ian, your good friend from Florida, Tom Petty.
Yeah.
This session turned into a full album with the superstars calling themselves the Traveling Wilburys. Now, just for the record, Harrison forgot his guitar at Petty's place. That's how Petty got into the band, because he went there.
That's a great story.
By the way, we're starting a band. You want in? You busy? What did he have going on at that time?
Really, nothing.
Nothing. So accompanied by the single Handle With Care, their record, The Traveling Wilburys Volume 1, appeared in October 1988, and it was selling well prior to the death of Orbison. Its second single in the line helped cement its success, and it wound up being certified platinum 3 times in the States. Unfortunately, on November 29th, 2001, Harrison passed away from lung cancer. After his death, his son Danny and Jeff Lynne completed Harrison's unreleased recordings, and they were released as Brainwashed in 2002. George was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. Producing and collaborating, he produced albums for Badfinger, Billy Preston, Ravi Shankar, formed the Traveling Wilburys supergroup of Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, and Jeff Lynne. His influences on later musicians, he inspired a new generation of guitarists and songwriters with his melodic Eastern influence style. Artists like Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton, and Paul Simon actually cited him as a major influence. Legacy and awards, again, inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist in 2004, and awarded the Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music in 1988. And in conclusion, George Harrison's solo work cemented his status as one of the most talented and influential musicians of his era. His catalog of timeless songs, innovative productions, and lasting impact on music solidify his place as more than just the quiet Beatle.
Good God.
I like him.
You seem to.
I do. I have no issues with Harrison. I have no issues with any four of them. I have no issues with their solo stuff. Lennon's stuff is okay. Look, Paul McCartney's stuff, some of it is just horrible.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
Like Pipes of Peace is an album you're not a really big fan of.
It's not Flaming Pie. They're not really listenable. If they weren't Beatles, you'd say, nah, right? But the Beatles were so great that Ringo can produce a best-selling book of old photographs. Like anybody else, right? There's something magic about the Beatles. As for George Harrison, I'm going to give him My Sweet Lord. I'm going to give him Here Comes the Sun. Maybe these are some great songs, but
While My Guitar Gently Weeps is solid.
That is a great song, but you listen to some of these albums all the way through. It's not possible. He always said he just wanted to be a guitar player in a band, and he was almost forced into writing songs, right? Because the other two guys are so good at it. So, yeah.
It just came natural for those two guys, I think.
I know, they're much better. Well, anyway, thanks very much. That was quite insightful.
This was fun, actually.
Yeah, this one worked out. I wasn't sure, but, we have got emails, and because we've done stuff about the Beatles, but, the Beatles broke up in 1970. So a lot of people, the old joke is a lot of younger people know Paul McCartney from his old band, The Wings. Like, it's just incredible. But often, I've heard that. But we want to present the four most famous pop musicians of probably in history, and what happened to them after their band broke up. So, I hope you take it all with a bit of a grain of salt. We're having fun doing it, and I'm looking forward to just signing off.
I just want to know, before we sign off, do young people look at George Harrison as his band, the Traveling Wilburys?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
No, you never know.
You never. But I heard with the Wings, as they said, the Wings. Okay.
It's Wings or the Wings? It's Wings.
It's Wings, but people say because of the Beatles. The Wings? No. So you're kidding? McCartney had a different band? Yeah. So
it was only his second.
He's only his second band. Well, thanks very much for participating.
This was great.
Yeah.
You signing off?
Dr. Ian Clarke saying au revoir. See you soon.
Kennedy saying adieu. Bye.
Bye-bye.